You're tuned in to More Living with Jim Brogan, broadcast live from the Brogan Financial Studios at News Talk 98.7, where old-fashioned values, expert knowledge, and genuine understanding come together to give you the retirement straight talk you deserve. Jim's a former National Advisor of the Year recipient and a financial educator, and he's here today to talk about how you can live out the best years of your life. Jim and the Brogan Financial team have been helping retirees and pre-retirees across the Southeast for over 20 years in their pursuit of financial independence. You can reach them during the week at 865-862-6800. So sit back, relax, and get ready to learn, because More Living with Jim Brogan starts now.
Hello, East Tennessee. Welcome to More Living with Jim Brogan, where it's all about living the best years of your life your way. This is News Talk 98.7 WOKI. I'm excited about today's show. We've got Larsen J in studio with us today. He's a former Emmy Award-winning producer who, after surviving a life-threatening accident, discovered the simple yet profound power of kindness, delivered not with words but with flowers. And that one small act of repurposing a bouquet for another hospital patient sparked what would become Random Acts of Flowers, a nonprofit dedicated to delivering hope and encouragement to patients in healthcare facilities across the country. Since founding the organization in 2008, Larsen has helped deliver over 500,000 arrangements, all created from recycled flowers and made possible by community volunteers. But what this story is about isn't just flowers. It's about empathy, resilience, the transformative power of serving others. So today we'll hear about Larsen's journey from the entertainment industry to social impact leadership, the emotional impact of small acts of kindness, and how we can all find purpose in giving back. So settle in. This is a conversation about healing, hope, and how beauty can be found in life's most unexpected moments. Good morning, Larsen. Welcome to More Living.
Good morning. Sun's out and a beautiful day. Thanks for having me.
It is beautiful, yeah. Let's start from the beginning. Talk about your background before you founded Acts of Flowers.
Yeah, I was a film and television producer for about, close to 15 years or so, and came here to the University of Tennessee, was actually a student in the production theater world, translated that to the production film world. Traveled to Dallas to work, to Los Angeles, the mecca of film production, of course, and then all over the world, and came back here to do cable television production. This is sort of the height of the Scripps days, and HGTV and DIY and all that, and had a great career basically being a visual storyteller, and that could be as a producer or director, wrote a few things, but mostly. How do you take an idea? How do you take a concept, a product, a company, a message, and how do you turn it into something compelling and be a visual storyteller? And that had every range from doing burger commercials to winning an Emmy for telling a documentary story to DIY stuff on Scripps to a full length feature film with Hal Holbrook. So really great career and a really great opportunity to sort of bring that to life.
So I talked there in the opener about your life journey and kind of you had an injury yourself. What sparked the transition? Talk a little bit about that from media to nonprofit.
Yeah, in 2007, ironically, this would be the year that I was doing productions all over the world, went on a project, helicopter, skiing in glaciers in Canada, came back just fine, went to Nepal to Everest Base Camp, spent a month hiking in the Himalayas doing filming, came back just fine. Did all these things where I should be injured and broken, fine. July 29th, 2007, I had a warehouse here on the north side of town that I owned that was just kind of my place, and I was fixing the roof and had a leak in it, so I was throwing a tarp on it to deal with it next year, up and down the ladder, just a DIY project, something I would have done, any given time. And for some reason on the 15th or 16th time, I stepped on the top of the ladder collapsed out from underneath me, and I fell about a story and a half face down on the concrete.
Oh, my gosh.
Broke my left arm, left wrist, right elbow, right femur, nose, and 10 skull fractures. And shouldn't be here sitting with you this morning.
Wow.
2 days in ICU at level 1 trauma at UT Medical Center, 10 days on the level 1 trauma floor, the bad floor for serious injuries. 10 days at peritoneal rehab, trying to learn how to function a little bit again, 3.5 months in a wheelchair, and 15 surgeries putting me back together and counting. But it was that first crucial week at the UT Medical Center where I was overwhelmed with support from our friends, family, community, and that came in the way of flowers. And I'd never been given flowers. I mean, most guys have never been sent flowers in their whole life. It's pretty rare culturally. And every day, as that first week of putting my life back together, the hardest week of my life, flower deliveries kept coming every hour, every 2 hours, every 3 hours. And by the end of the first week, it was full. I mean, you've been in a hospital room. They're small. They're kind of industrial. They're cold. By the end of the first week, it was a jungle of joy and happiness and celebration.
So at your toughest moments, recovering that very first week, that just lifted your spirits so much, which I believe helps with our recovery.
100%. Every time a delivery came in, it filled me with more love and support and encouragement. But here's what I noticed. Every time somebody else came into the room, they perked up.
We're impacted by seeing all that.
Just seeing it. I mean, doctors, nurses, the caretakers, the people that deliver food or pick up the trash, every time they walk in a room, they'd stop and just perk up, like physically perk up and smile, and they'd see all these flowers. I mean, we had 40, 50 bouquets in my room on the windowsill, on the floor. It was everywhere. And I noticed their reaction of how much it changed their perspective when they walked in the room. It changed the mood. It changed the smell. It changed the visual. It showed something that everyone could identify with, and it didn't matter who they were. And it shows constant.
You know, that shows to me, Larsen, that how much the human spirit, we need compassion and kindness.
We do.
And in this backdrop of what's been going on in our country the last few weeks, with violence all over the place, we need compassion and kindness. And I think that's very refreshing to hear that, how that impacted even other people coming into the room.
Yeah, and so it changed my perspective that week. It changed, look, I was 33. I should be dead. I'm trying to figure out how to put my life back together. My arms and legs and head are all broken. I owned a production company. I had employees. I was very active in the community. I had like a whole sort of curated life that was really at full throttle, and all of that stopped. And I'm trying to figure out how to put my life back together with surgery after surgery after surgery after the first 3, 4, 5 days. And then the constant was the flowers that just kept coming. The florists were joking that all they were doing was driving from their shop to my room, their shop to my room. And so it was the end. The genesis of this was the end of the first week. I got really stir crazy. I had a hard time sitting in that room for a long time.
That would be tough.
And so I convinced my family and the nurses to kind of just get me out in a wheelchair, just get me out in the halls. It took like 45 minutes to transfer me to a wheelchair, bags, casts, IVs, the whole bit. And when we left my room, we re-entered that stark industrialization of what hospitals are. And as I was being rolled down the 10th floor, I saw room after room after room after room after room. No flowers, no plants, no visitors, no life. Like I had this jungle of joy and happiness and support, and I saw how many rooms had nothing. It was such a contrast to me, and I just asked to go back to my room. We took all the cards off my flowers. We loaded up my wheelchair, and we just started making deliveries. We didn't ask for permission. We didn't follow protocol. I'm sure we broke all the rules. It was the right thing to do at the right time for the right people. That's it.
So, so many people, when we have something traumatic happen to us, we often have good ideas, but so few people actually act on them. Was that the turning point? Was seeing those stark rooms in contrast? Was that then made you create action and actually doing something directly?
Yeah, it was that moment of clarity that said, this is the right thing to do for the right reason, for the right people. Let's just go do it. We loaded up my wheelchair. We started making deliveries. And I'll tell you, the very first delivery was right next door. And all week long, we had heard this woman wailing in pain all week long. Moans, groans, screams, terrible, like you can hear through the walls. And when we went into her room, she was in full kind of headgear traction, and it was clear no one was there with her. She had no family, no advocate, nothing. She was by herself. And I kid you not, she had these desperate eyes that you never want to see. The pull the plug eyes, I'm done, like just dead eyes that you can just understand immediately what she's going through. And we put this giant bouquet of flowers right on her stand, and she went from that look to smiling and crying. Like we pumped life back into her immediately. Wow. And then room after room after room, there was a gentleman about 3 rooms down. He was taking care of his wife. She was dying of cancer. She had had a fall. He was a gardener. He told us about how we went back. We got a big plant that somebody had given me. We gave it to him, and he hugged the plant. It's like he had something to take care of while he took care of her. We gave him his garden back while he was in this. So those are those trigger moments where I just kept thinking about it. Now, in my recovery, I spent about 3.5 months in a wheelchair. When you spend time in a wheelchair, you spend a lot of time alone. No matter how many people around you, it is a very, very lonely place. And I just kept thinking about that. Kept thinking like, God, what an impact, like what a change it made for them. Somebody must be doing this, right? Like we were active in the community. We'd been involved with lots of stuff. I kept thinking, surely somebody's doing this. All the weddings, all the funerals, all the grocery stores, all the special events, all the centerpieces at, fundraisers. And I kept thinking, like, come on, okay, I'll go find a company that I can support. I'll go find an organization.
That's recycling the flowers.
That's doing it. And I couldn't find one. I found a few stories of, maybe like a florist or a bride or somebody that kind of repurposed flowers. I mean, I didn't, invent sliced bread. I just figured out how to put it together in a package, and nobody was doing this in an organized way. And so well into my recovery, about 6 months later, I kept thinking about this, and I jotted down a few ideas and came up with a half clever name that nobody else had registered and bought. And I sat down with my wife and I said, you remember those moments? You remember what happened? I got an idea, and it was a way for me to channel my recovery and my opportunity, my second chance on life, into something that was simple. It was simple, and it was human kindness and compassion at its core. I wasn't trying to solve homelessness or, cure cancer or like fundamentally shift society. It was simple. I could see it. Flowers get thrown away. No, they come to us. Flowers go in the hands of somebody who needs that emotional lift. Like it seemed really tangible. And so a year to the date of my accident, we filed our paperwork and started Random Acts of Flowers and wrote the first check and just said, let's go.
We're visiting with Larsen J. He's the founder of Random Acts of Flowers, wonderful charity. When we come back, I want to talk about the experience with all the volunteers. How many cities have they, I said all over the country. How vast is this ministry? Because it really is a ministry. Yeah. We'll discuss more about the power of compassion, kindness, the power of giving. We'll get into that. So stay with us. This is More Living with Jim Brogan here on News Talk 98.7 WOKI.
Welcome back to News Talk 98.7's Brogan Financial Studios, where Jim Brogan is coming to you live with important news and advice to help you achieve your dream retirement. Get ready to learn and live. Here's your host, Jim Brogan.
Welcome back. This is More Living here on News Talk 98.7 WOKI. I'm Jim Brogan. We're talking about the impact of compassion and kindness today and in giving. We're visiting with Larsen J., the founder of Random Acts of Flowers, and we're talking about the great things, what really the impetus behind the formation of this organization and how they impact lives. Let's talk, first off, talk about what your mission statement is. We were talking off air a little bit about mission, and it's not changed really.
No, it's the same mission from 17 years ago to today, which is delivering moments of hope and encouragement and kindness and compassion to people in medical facilities and healthcare facilities. We know if we can fundamentally shift the emotional state of somebody, the psychological state of somebody, it is proven it can help with the healing process. And there is an epidemic of loneliness in this world, especially in our senior care facilities. But in the hospitals, what we're trying to do is find, I'm mad, I'm sad, I'm lonely, I'm nervous, I'm grumpy, I'm frustrated. What is taking that sort of binding preventative mindset and giving a little bit of a release, giving a bouquet of flowers to just say, we care, we hope you feel better, keep smiling, to bring a little bit of life into that environment that changes the perspective just for a second.
Absolutely. Now, you've given me these numbers here. So in East Tennessee, you've done over 213,000 patient deliveries.
Yes.
Nationally, over 735,000.
Yeah.
So East Tennessee's roughly a third of those.
Right.
So then when we say nationally, talk to us a little bit about the geographic areas we're talking about.
We have affiliate random acts of flower programs in Indianapolis, in Tampa Bay, Asheville, North Carolina. There's a new one starting in Chattanooga, and we've had other facilities in Chicago, in Silicon Valley. We had one early on, and even in Greenville, Tennessee. But beyond that, those are our numbers. Those are our mission numbers as a collective, as Random Acts of Flowers. We've inspired 35 to 45 other organizations that do similar work who have called us and say, hey, I want to open one up in Little Rock, Arkansas, and we're like, we can't do it right now, but we'll help you. So
they open their own.
Yeah, they open, Betty's Flower Shuttle or, whatever. They call it something else. And we have them listed on our website. We encourage people to connect with them. But we've consulted with groups in London, Hong Kong, in France, and literally all over the country. And so anytime somebody calls us now, we have an affiliate program now. And if people want to be a Random Acts of Flowers, they can, be part of our organization, start their own. We give them a kit.
That's cool
help
too.
them. How do we continue to spread this kindness and compassion? And yeah, you said it. It's a ministry. It's a passionate ministry of human connection. And I think that's what drives us every day.
Now, your organization depends on volunteers.
Oh, 99% volunteers.
And I've got here 316,000 volunteer hours. So you've worked with, I guess, thousands of volunteers.
Thousands. Every one of our facilities has somewhere between about 200 and 350 volunteers. And what's great about Random Acts of Flowers is you can volunteer in any number of things. Some people, they want to work with the flowers. Some people don't. We have people that are pick up volunteers. All they do is go and source, flowers for us and bring them to us. There's people that deconstruct and prep the flowers. There's people that actually do the arrangements. There's a whole vase recycling team. There's people on our board of directors. There's a whole it's mostly women that volunteer, but not always. We have a whole handyman's club of people that help fix the van and, change the light bulb and do the maintenance. But we also have multi-generational volunteers, and that's the coolest part. When you go in and you see a granddaughter, a daughter, and a grandmother all working at the table together, you see a son and a grandson doing a Boy Scout project for us, things like that, where it's obtainable. Everybody has an opportunity to impact somebody, and I guarantee you everybody that's listening this morning has 10 vases in their house collecting dust, and every one of those vases is something that we can use to help serve somebody else. So
you've recycled almost 800,000 vases.
Yeah, we're approaching 1 million vases recycled, and they come through the system, and they come through the system, and they come through the system, and we go out and Boy Scout troops and Girl Scout troops and churches and companies, and we do vase drives. And just to give you a perspective of our impact and all those numbers, we here in East Tennessee serve about 1,500 people every single month. So we have to recycle about 2,000 vases every single month just to keep up, because some are too big, too small, cracked, whatever. But we're constantly bringing flowers in. So we get all of our flowers from grocery stores that turn over their inventory. Think about you walking through Costco or Kroger. All that gets turned over just like fruit, The importers that sell to the florist, they have overruns and they have overstocks, or they might have a whole bouquet of flowers and one is dead, and so they used to throw it all away, and now they give it to us. We take the one out and we use the rest.
Yeah.
Weddings, funerals, grocery stores, special events, churches. The church floral guilds used to be a big thing 30, 40 years ago. They've now worked with us to outsource that. So anywhere there's a flower that is used, unused, we even have growers that are out in the more rural areas that are growing for us. We bring all those flowers into a central facility right here over on Middlebrook Pike. Our volunteers break them all down and then rebuild them into a brand new bouquet, and they're out the door in 24 to 48 hours all the time.
So with thousands of volunteers, I imagine that you have very, very diverse backgrounds and life experiences of the volunteers. So, Larsen, what have those volunteers taught you about community and human generosity?
What they've taught me is that the desire for human connection, for compassion, from kindness, from relationships is greater than ever. We have people that have walked in bringing us their flowers from a funeral from their husband or wife or their family member, and they need that outlet, and they've come in and they've gone, I want this to help somebody else, and then we've welcomed them in, and then they become our volunteers, and they've come back because now they've found a community of other people just like them. The desire to help other people is so huge. Now, I love to claim that the volunteer state is unique and we're the best and da-da. I think our country is that way. I've been all over the world. You've traveled. Our country is uniquely positioned to care about other people first. And that's cool. And so I think people have taught me, like, all the noise, all the commodity of rage, all of the sort of everybody's hyper focused on everything all the time. Just keep it simple. Human connection.
I think that's an issue for sure, because the way our media and the way we do everything on our phones and social media and all that stuff, it's unfortunately become easier and easier for people to just be so inward focused.
Yeah.
And I think what I'm hearing you say, and I would absolutely have expected this, the blessings it gives the volunteers, not just the people receiving but the volunteers themselves, which you've just touched on.
Yeah, I don't think I ever expected that. I was always focused on, I was a patient, I want to help other patients.
Right.
I didn't understand the ripple effect of Random Acts of Flowers. We know for every delivery we make, there is a tenfold impact. Somebody has given us those flowers, and they have donated those to us, and that means something to them, whether it be their wedding and they want to keep that joy going for others, that funeral where they want to honor someone else in honor of their family member, that grocery store where that person hates to see stuff wasted and knows it'll go somewhere. There's that person. There's the person that brings it to us, deconstructs it, arranges it, puts together that beautiful bouquet. The person who goes out and makes the delivery, the doctors, the nurses, the caregivers that we work with, because they decide who it goes to. That's the unique part. They make those decisions, and they know who's mad, who's lonely, who hasn't had a visitor. The people who recycle the vases, the people listening today, like, the ripple effect is huge. So yeah, we're approaching 1 million deliveries nationwide, but it's probably 10 million or more that we've really had an impact on, and it's through micro moments of kindness and compassion. And that's the whole mission. That's the commodity.
Absolutely.
Every day.
How do you train and manage volunteers across so many cities to keep the operation running smoothly?
Well, the first thing we do is we run it like a business, and I believe that with nonprofits especially. In one of our future segments, I want to talk about financial stewardship. But we run the business well so the mission will flourish. If you have a great mission and no business sense, you're done.
And a lot of charities miss that.
They miss that.
You've got to run it as a good business.
So we run it as a good business. We have volunteer signups. We have orientation. We have training. We have mentorships where they get paired with another volunteer. We have different steps where they start here, then they go to here, then they go to there. But we do it with an attitude of, the answer is yes. What's the question? We welcome you in. Now, what do you want to do?
I love that.
We will say there is something for everyone at Random Acts of Flowers. If you just want to break down cardboard boxes, okay. If you want to just help sweep the floor, great. But if you want to go out on a delivery, we'll find you a spot. And so it's a welcoming thing, but it's also a training and a structural thing so that we can keep organization and a communication line with our volunteers, because we need them every day. Sometimes we have pickups. Hey, there's a wedding and they got to have these flowers out on a Saturday night at 11 o'clock. Mm-hmm. Who's available, and we got to be able to communicate. So there's a lot of structure and there's a lot of business sense behind the organization, but it keeps everybody glued together.
We're visiting with Larsen J., Random Acts of Flowers. When we come back, we'll have more about the impact of small acts of kindness and compassion. We're also going to get into the financial stewardship component of a charitable organization, how important that is. We'll also have our dollars and cents segment. What does the will, your written will, the legal document, what does it not cover? And understanding the basics of how assets transfer spouse to spouse and from you to your heirs. Stay with us. This is More Living with Jim Brogan here on News Talk 98.7 WOKI.
Welcome back to News Talk 98.7's Brogan Financial Studios, where Jim Brogan is coming to you live with important news and advice to help you achieve your dream retirement. Get ready to learn and live. Here's your host, Jim Brogan.
This is More Living with Jim Brogan, where it's all about living the best years of your life your way. We're with you every Saturday, 9 to 10 a.m., and again from 3 to 4 p.m. You can also catch us online on your favorite podcast channel, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. You can also go to my website at broganfinancial.com. We'll have today's show uploaded by Tuesday afternoon. We'd love for you to, we've got 2 or 3 years worth of shows archived there, so do check us out there. It is time this week for Dollars and Cents.
Want to be sure you are getting the most out of your retirement? For all the years of your retirement? That's the primary goal of More Living with Jim Brogan and our Dollars and Cents segment, where we provide you with an important financial tip that will help positively impact the quality of your life in retirement. And now, here's Jim with this week's Dollars and Cents tip.
Let's discuss understanding how assets transfer upon your death. What does the will cover? What does the will not cover? And where does that lead to mistakes and issues? So it's very important to understand. So first off, when we jointly own something, like my wife and I own our house. So if I die first, she automatically owns the house. There's no legal process. The will doesn't govern anything. Her name's on the house, so she automatically owns the house. When we have a joint investment account or a joint bank account or anything like that. Now we cannot own retirement accounts jointly, right? It's an individual retirement account. So if I have a 401k or an IRA, I own it myself, but I name her as the beneficiary. And when you name a beneficiary, it also, as a matter of law, goes directly to that beneficiary according to what's on the beneficiary designation. Put another way, the will has absolutely nothing to do, if you have a living beneficiary, the will has nothing to do with how those assets transfer. The other thing that you have to understand is, people ask me all the time about the probate process and how difficult is it and all these things. You have to understand, probate in Latin actually means prove the will. So, in other words, if the will is the document that's governing the asset, it is going to go through probate. So, when we own things jointly, it doesn't go through probate. When we name a beneficiary designation, does not go through probate. If you have a contingent beneficiary named on your retirement accounts, does not go through probate. Now, when we own real property, like our house, the only way we can get real property to our kids without probate is to put it in a living trust. That's a topic for another Dollars and Cents segment. But it's important to understand these things, because think about how many pages your will is. Your will may be, typically I see wills are 8, 10, maybe 12 pages long, and there's a lot of legal language in there. But when you jointly own an asset, or more importantly, when you own something and name someone else as the beneficiary, all that legal language has nothing to do with who gets what and how. It's the beneficiary designation, or if something's jointly titled. So coordinating all those things is so critically important. And I'll tell you where people can get tripped up. I've even seen instances where a husband and wife get a divorce. They do a divorce agreement. They redo their assets. The husband gets this, the wife gets that, whatever. And I've seen instances where one of the ex-spouses, they don't rename beneficiaries on their retirement account. Like, let's say your 401k. And you redo your will and you leave everything to your kids. The problem is, as a matter of law, if that beneficiary designation still says your ex-spouse, guess what? If you die first, that's where that money's going. It's a simple matter of law. And when it's ever gone to the Supreme Court, and it has gone to the Supreme Court, it's been summarily defeated that the beneficiary designation has the legal precedent. It supersedes the will. So just understanding the basics of how assets transfer and how you have to coordinate these different kinds of assets and make sure that it's all part of one cohesive plan.
That's our Dollars and Cents segment for this week. You can find this week's Dollars and Cents segment and others by visiting BroganFinancial.com.
Do check us out at BroganFinancial.com. We've got lots of resources. If you click on resources, you can download guides. We've got blogs. You click on resources, you can also find out our upcoming classes. My last class for the fall is at Pellissippi State, Thrive Financially in Retirement. It's in October, towards the latter part of the month. You can actually go to PellissippiRetirementPlanning.com to find out more information. And that's the Hardin Valley location. We're visiting today with Larsen J., the founder of Random Acts of Flowers, and we're looking at almost 800,000 vases that have been recycled, over 735,000 patient deliveries of flowers around the country. You mentioned that just the impact of something small. Talk about something small and how that small gesture of kindness can really influence mental and emotional healing.
Well, think about the last time a complete stranger did something nice for you for no other reason than to make you smile. Think about it. Most people listening will struggle to think of one, whether they're not selling you something or
there's an ulterior motive.
Yeah, think about that. When was the last time? Now, imagine yourself in a hospital room, in a healthcare facility, with no one and nothing. You might be lonely. You might be nervous. You might be sad. You might be anxious. And a person walks in the door, knocks on the door, says, "Hey, how are you today? I've got something for you. I've got these flowers to brighten up your room, get a little something to make you smile." They put them down and they say, "I hope you have a great day." And they walk out the door. No strings attached. We're not asking you to sign up for anything. We're not asking you to do anything. We just want you to, I often say, just keep smiling. That's it. Just here's something to help you keep smiling. So that little moment is so rare. And if we do nothing else beyond the really impactful mission with Random Acts of Flowers, I hope what we do is inspire people to do those tiny, we've heard this is the play on the title, the Random Acts of Kindness, but we don't do it very often. Sometimes in the holidays, we kind of do it. I would just encourage everybody to it doesn't have to be huge, but
getting outside of yourself.
There's 100 times a day where you see somebody in some situation, and it could be the person checking out your groceries. It could be the person struggling to get in their car. It could be somebody that wasn't paying attention and you let them in, instead of honking and yelling. There's 1,000 minutes a day where you can just go, I'm going to be a little nicer to that person. I'm going to bring a little kindness. A little grace. Just give them a little grace and get a little kindness. And you will not believe the impact it will make taking somebody's grocery cart back for them, opening the door, smiling and saying, have a great day. That's it. Yeah. Just walk away.
It does make a difference.
You don't know what people are going through. And I think
know what? It feels good, too, when you do that.
It feels
when you're
great.
The giver of that, it feels good.
Yeah. When you give, you get. And when you give emotion on that level, it fills you up. And that was me. That was me in the most broken, desperate state, physically and emotionally, in a time, I got to have my midlife crisis at 33 instead of 53. But when the whole world's upside down, somebody delivers flowers, and now that sort of everyday kindness everybody can do, and it changes. It really does. It changes every little step. Now, it will never solve all the world's ills, but I promise you it's going to make it better.
So how, How has your work changed your understanding of healthcare environments, specifically in the people within them?
I think our healthcare system is so complicated and so overwhelming and so difficult financially, logistically, emotionally, physically. If you don't have advocates, families, resources, and connection points, it is a very, very difficult world to navigate. And financially, you must come up with against people that all the time they don't know how they're going to get well and not be bankrupt. They don't know how they're going to take care of somebody else. I mean, it is probably a 6-hour long discussion, but what I have learned about it is that we cannot assume that because somebody's being taken care of that there isn't an issue still underlying. And I say this especially with our senior care facilities. It might be the nicest place in the world. It's probably still one of the loneliest places. And I have delivered flowers to thousands and thousands and tens of thousands of people all over the country. And you cannot believe how many people we have met, especially in our senior care facilities, that they have family, but somebody hasn't ever come to see them in, months, weeks, sometimes years. And so that behind the veil of all healthcare, there are scared and lonely people, and moments of kindness mean everything. And when you're not a doctor and you're not a clinician and you're not poking and prodding and giving them instructions and you're just a human that says,
just caring for people,
just caring for you, it means so much. And so I just encourage people, like, don't walk by.
Yeah.
Don't walk by.
So Random Acts of Flowers kind of sits at the intersection of healthcare, community service, and emotional wellness.
Absolutely.
So how do you see the role of nonprofits in filling those emotional gaps that traditional systems typically overlook?
You have to have a purpose that drives a real void, that filling a real void. It's, I've worked with so many nonprofits that they start something because they had a great idea, but they didn't say, was this really needed, or was there 5 other ones just like me that I could have leaned into instead of creating a 6th one? Nonprofit organizations and charitable organizations fill the gap of so many things that make our society better, that government shouldn't do, and needs organization and impact. But they often fall in the trap of, I've got a great idea, I'll just start a nonprofit, or I've got a bunch of people that, eventually gets to the point where I need a job or something. It loses its sort of impact. And I think that if you are involved or you're supporting or running a charity, you have to say, am I fundamentally making tomorrow better? If I'm in the food world, am I making sure I'm feeding less people because now they have ability to feed themselves? If I have a way to impact them on a financial level or emotional level, you gotta find a void in a sliver that means something, and it really, really changes the game. Otherwise, you're just sort of filling space.
That's Larsen J, Random Acts of Flowers. When we come back, we'll talk about financial stewardship and the importance of that type of impact. So stay with us. This is More Living with Jim Brogan here on News Talk 98.7 WOKI.
Welcome back to News Talk 98.7's Brogan Financial Studios, where Jim Brogan is coming to you live with important news and advice to help you achieve your dream retirement. Get ready to learn and live. Here's your host, Jim Brogan.
Thanks for tuning in this week to More Living here on News Talk 98.7 WOKI. We've been visiting with Larsen J and just talking about the impact of acts of compassion and kindness, small things that can really make a difference. He's the founder, of course, of Random Acts of Flowers. And let's talk about the importance of financial stewardship for a charitable organization. You talked about, and I'm such a believer in this, how important it is to manage it like you have to. It has to be run like a business. Just because it's nonprofit doesn't mean you ignore the financials.
It's so true. I've said so many times, if you run the business well, the mission will flourish. But if you have a great mission with no business sense, it doesn't matter. People think nonprofits, they don't think of it as a business, but literally we do every single thing that every other business does.
It's a concern if they don't think about it as a
exactly,
business.
But they don't think that way. And so it's so important. And the financial stewardship, and what I've seen as I've coached other nonprofits along, is what they do is they get going, they get a little bit of resources, they get going, and then they sort of don't have that business sense or the long-term financial stability, and so they start doing events to raise money. And then they become an event organization and a fundraising organization that, oh, by the way, had a good mission. And that is a shift that usually happens in the first 5 years. They start off with a great mission and, oh, they got to fundraise, and then they turn into a fundraising organization. And so I always say, if you go to a board meeting and they talk about fundraising more than 25%, you should leave immediately. Because what they're not doing is they're not focusing on the mission and running the business well. If they're desperate all the time, if that organization is constantly having to do the next thing and the next thing just to keep the lights on, it's never going to be impactful and sustainable. And so we worked really, really hard at Random Acts Flowers to do a couple things. One, never have any debt. Ever.
Right, you have no debt.
No debt, no liabilities, no long-term leases, nothing. It's
mostly volunteer work, right?
Yeah,
or almost 99%.
99% volunteer work. So very small staff, very simple operation. But then what we did was we also looked at cash flow. If you have a pandemic, if you have a crisis in your organization, if you have something happening, what we found was most nonprofits, including all the churches, like something like 90% of all nonprofit organizations and churches have less than 3 months of cash flow on hand at any given time. They're living paycheck to paycheck, just like other people are doing. And only like 5% have 3 to 6 months, and 2% have over 6 months. And so we said, look, if we can continue to be diligent about reducing our expenses, staying diligent on the funding side, but then start socking away reserves, we get to a point where we can be strategic and impactful and not desperate for another event. And so today, this Random Acts of Flowers here in East Tennessee has 12 months of operating capital.
Yeah, that's great.
If we stopped any fundraising tomorrow, we could do our mission for a year and make sure everything was taken care of. And that has allowed us to maybe turn down some things that seem great, but really sort of hinder the mission, and just say focus on the mission time and again. So we preach discipline, and what we do is we say the bottom line matters so much. When you need paper towels, instead of running to Costco and get a bunch of paper towels, use your volunteer base and say, hey, the next time somebody's at Costco, will you pick up some paper towels for us? Well, that might be $5. But that's $5 times 1,000 different decisions. And all of a sudden, when you use a volunteer base and you really stay diligent in the fundraising and you start building those reserves, you get to a point where you can breathe. And once you start breathing, you start focusing.
Yeah, I just love that you emphasize the importance of fiscal responsibility in managing a business of a charity. I would be remiss, I have to ask you this. So what's next for Larsen J? You're running for mayor, right?
Yeah.
Knox County mayor?
You know, it's interesting. My shift from a focus on success to focus on significance during my near-death crisis led to Random Acts Flowers, which led to more service, which led to people encouraging me to run for public office. I've been a commissioner now for 2 terms, 7 years. And, yeah, I'm a candidate for Knox County mayor on next year's ballot. And so I love public service. I didn't know I would love it as much as I do. I find great joy in bringing, just enthusiasm and hard work every day. I'm excited to show up and solve problems or help people, and I hope people will keep me around. And I've always said if people want me to stick around, I will give it everything I got and not look for another job and do everything I can to help Knox County. If they don't, I'll be skinnier and less stressed. This is a hard job being an elected official, so yeah. I'll do my best. But I'll do my best to show up and serve, and I think Random Acts of Flowers was the catalyst for me understanding that my purpose is to help other people, whatever that looks like professionally or personally.
So how can people find out more about Random Acts of Flowers for either giving, charitable, or volunteering?
Absolutely.
Their work?
Yeah, I wouldn't be remiss if I didn't say you have to invest in things that you believe in. RandomActsOfFlowers.org is the website. You can do a simple search. And if you believe in us, invest in us. If you believe in us, show up and help bring us vases. Give us your time. Help somebody else. You would not believe the impact it would make. But randomactsofflowers.org is the best way to find us. And if you're outside of the listening area and there's some other place that we can help you connect and bring flowers and joy and compassion to other people, we'll always do that.
That's Larsen J, randomactsofflowers.org. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule.
Thank you for having me in here today.
Yeah, sure. And one of the consistent themes there is the people that are volunteering and are giving are getting so many blessings back. It just shows that power of helping other people. Thanks for tuning in this week. Thank you, Wayne, engineering the show. Thank you to Mary Caroline for producing the show. This is More Living with Jim Brogan on News Talk 98.7 WOKI.
The views expressed by Jim Brogan and his guests are not that of Cumulus Media. Any discussion of financial, legal, and tax planning strategies is not intended to be individualized advice and is general in nature. Always consult with your advisor for advice specific to your needs. This program's content does not represent a recommendation of any particular security, strategy, or investment by Jim Brogan or Brogan Financial Incorporated.